Welcome back to another episode of Life After Divorce. I am your host, Chris, and this is episode number 5, so thank you for coming back and joining me for the next episode. Before I get into talking a little bit about self-care and loneliness and how I'm going to tie those together, I've been asked by a couple of people already, like, why did I come up with the image that I came up with for the title of the Life After Divorce, if you will. And you know, the road, you don't really see where the road goes, and it's kind of like life in general, because, you know, if you're on the interstate or you're on the highway or where, you know, you see a bend coming up, and because of the trees, because of the hillside, like whatever else, or you're coming up over a hill, you don't see what's on the other side. You assume it's safe, you have faith that there's still road there, but you can't see what's on the other side. I mean, the man upstairs obviously has a grand view of everything that's going on, but from inside the car, inside the truck, like, we don't see what is on the other side. And so, you know, I came up with that because, you know, again, life doesn't always go our way. It's not always about us. I know it's probably a shock to hear that statement come out, but going through, you know, as life changes, as life evolves, like, the road is still there. We just don't know where it's going next. And so that's kind of why I came up with that. And like I said, I had a few different questions about, like, why that type of image. That's really why I came up with that, and the meaning that I am looking at behind it. Because again, we don't see it from above. We see it from where we're at right now. And oftentimes, which kind of, I guess, leads me into, this is totally by accident, but I guess it leads me into the self-care and loneliness aspect, because oftentimes we get so caught up in what's going on up here that we don't see all the blessings, all the things that are going on around us, all the things we have going for us, because we get so caught up in our own head trash, really. And so that's why I'm looking at it and bringing together self-care and loneliness, because self-care, let me just define it, because I was Googling earlier and came across this definition of self-care, which, by the way, came from activeminds.org. I'm not plagiarizing. But according to activeminds.org, self-care is defined as doing things to take care of our mind, our body, and our soul by engaging in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress. Yeah, I totally just read that. So think about that. So self-care and loneliness. If we are engaging in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress, our self-care is up here and our loneliness is falling to the wayside because we don't have time to get caught in our head trash. On the flip side of that, if we're not doing things to take care of ourselves, the loneliness aspect exponentially goes up, or raises the same as this falls. Okay? And what I mean when I start talking about self-care, and yeah, that's kind of like a duh definition, but think about it. With self-care, we all get caught up in giving time to our kids, time to our work, time to our families, time to our friends. We give as far as our time goes. But do we actually stop and take time to take care of ourselves? And some people look at that as being selfish, but again, you can't make withdrawals from an account that doesn't have any balance in it. So, and I'm not saying balance like as in balance. I'm talking about like a $0 balance, like you have no money, you know. So you've got to take care of yourself in order to be able to continue to give out to others and give yourself, you know. So you got to take care of number one. Also, if you're overwhelmed and getting feelings, you're overwhelmed by your feelings, or you're overwhelmed by a situation that's going on, there are also distraction activities that are not the same as self-care, however, can have the same impact as self-care. So what I'm saying is, if you're feeling lonely, okay, so let's say the loneliness is high right now, which we all are going to go through, okay, that's not something that just you're going to deal with. Like, I struggle with it still. I mean, we all have times of day or days of the week or whatever, because I don't have my kids on certain days, or I don't have my kids every weekend. Like, it still happens. It's still something that I get to deal with. So again, preaching to the choir here, like, that's why I'm doing this episode, because it's something that we get to deal with and we get to work through, sometimes on a day-to-day basis, sometimes on a week-to-week or a month-to-month basis, but it's still something that we get to deal with. I've talked to a lot of different people that have been divorced, it's still something we get to deal with. So I don't encourage binge watching Netflix when you're by yourself for the whole day. I don't encourage hours upon hours of scrolling through social media when you're by yourself, because those things actually will raise the loneliness and lower the self-care, because we're not doing any activity. It might actually increase the thoughts or the feelings of being lonely or by yourself. So I don't encourage those, because again, the adverse effect that it will have. Again, my self-care is over here. So there are times where we can watch episodes on Netflix. I'm not saying don't watch Netflix. I'm not saying don't be on social media, but we've got to watch where that balancing act comes into play between the two. So loneliness, and I'll define it again from the same Active Minds website. Loneliness, those feelings can become excessive, all-consuming, and interfere with daily activity when we don't have that balance. So, I mean, loneliness is normal. We can all experience loneliness, okay? I'm not saying you have to be divorced to experience loneliness. What I'm saying is where it becomes an interference in your daily activity, it can become all-consuming, not all-consuming, and it becomes all this head trash because we're not taking care of ourselves. So, activities, like some things I wrote down here. Cleaning house, if that's something that works for you. Baking, if that's something that works for you. Yoga, exercise. It could be as simple as taking a walk to just clear your head and having a thankful walk, if you will. Thinking about the things that you're thankful for. Thinking about the things that you've been blessed with. Like, what are all the things you have going for you? Because you can't be stressed and blessed at the same time. Okay, John Gordon talks about this. You cannot be stressed and blessed at the same time. You can't be thinking about both things. Your mind and your heart goes one way or the other. It's not, you can't be both at the same time. So just simply take a walk. And I realize it's 31 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground right now as I'm recording this, but find other things you can do. You can read, whether it be your favorite book, the Bible, like read something, devotional, whatever. Practice deep breathing exercises. That's another thing that I'll get into in another episode, more about deep breathing exercises. But again, you can Google this type of stuff. This is not earth-shattering information. This is all stuff that's readily available. It's not all caught up in my brain. Some of it's stuck to my brain, but that's beside the point. Meditation, praying, I said yoga, different activities that, it could be calling a friend, not talking about why you're lonely, but it could be calling a friend. It could be, hey, let's go hang out together. Let's go have a drink together, or let's go get a meal together. COVID has really ramped up in all of our lives when we start talking about the loneliness aspect, because we've all started separating ourselves, or all been separated from our friends, our families, our normal activities. Like, again, that self-care has taken a hit in 2020, now 2021. The loneliness aspect goes up. So that's really what I wanted to focus on today is, again, tying together, you got to take care of yourself, and that will help keep your loneliness in check. Otherwise, if you don't, it will take over and drive you crazy. You'll battle depression. You'll deal with it in a lot of different ways that are not healthy. So take those two things into consideration. Again, it's something you got to do every day. It's an everyday practice, because if it's not, again, the brain will take over and loneliness will be an everyday practice. So like I said earlier, I'm preaching to the choir. I deal with this stuff just like you do, and I hope getting some feedback and something from a third party will help you in your experiences, because again, this is all about living a more joy-filled life as we start and are writing these new chapters in our new book. So that being said, email is here if you have questions, comments, concerns. Love to hear from you. Appreciate, again, all the positive feedback. And in the meantime, have yourself a great day, a blessed day, and a joy-filled life. Thanks a lot.